There is big news this morning on GM, and for that, we're going to turn to Phil LeBeau. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Carl. General Motors will be sending an offer letter, basically already has sent an offer letter to the majority of its salaried workforce, offering voluntary buyouts. Remember, GM is in the midst of cutting about $2 billion. That's the target in terms of how much money it expects to cut this year.
In today's video, General Motors signal their intent to go bankrupt later this decade. Moron Stanley live up to their name, suggesting that there isn't really much of a market for the Cybertruck. Some talking heads in the finance media out themselves as incompetent, deranged, biased morons. I know that sounds harsh, but it's just accurate. Some very mixed messages from analysts who simultaneously think that Tesla's going to upend the entire automotive industry, yet companies like GM are going to be fine. And with more time and more replays, more people seem to suddenly be understanding the implications of what Tesla unveiled at Investor Day 2023. Better late than never, huh? Don't forget to head over to Patreon and join the community, unlock over 300 exclusive videos, Tesla price targets, optional access to my valuation model which produces my price targets, and loads more. You can join with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment.
Tell me about Tesla, which has been under pressure over the last week or so, but the big picture has still been a great performer. What are you focused on after that investor meeting?
Look, I think the investor meeting basically laid out that Musk is going to be able to really reduce 30 to 50% in terms of the production costs. And that's significant. That's going to lay out eventually what's a sub $30,000 vehicle. It was a flex the muscles moment. And you look at Ford, look at Rivian, look at Lucid. I think it just shows from a scale and scope perspective what they're seeing. Price cuts has driven significant demand out of the gates. China is obviously a key variable. But I still believe bogey for the year 1.8 million is probably conservative. I think they could beat that.
Just between you and I think it is inevitable that Tesla delivers well in excess of 1.8 million vehicles for the full year of 2023.
And I think Tesla's just going sort of, a buy on the rumor, selling the news situation post Investor Day, but we be buyers here.
When you talked about some of the other names, Ford and Rivian and Lucid, and I think about a lot of the competitors in China, you have NIO and XPeng and Li Auto and BYD. The competitive landscape is becoming more broad each day, but Tesla certainly has that leap forward, that early leap, and Elon Musk and the vision that it's not just a car company, that they're manufacturing, they have batteries, and so on and so forth. What's going to keep Tesla ahead of all the competition in the next several years?
Well, I think it's still Tesla's world. Everyone else is paying rent in terms of just scale, scope, battery capacity, battery technology. But it's not, I don't view it as a zero-sum game. I think there's other ways to play in terms of some of the China plays, NIO, BYD. I think GM is going to be a re-rating name in terms of everything that Mary and the team are doing.
Still can't figure this guy out. Sometimes he says things that make sense, and other times he thinks that GM's a great opportunity, there's going to be a big turnaround. Clearly, he believes the BS that Mary Barra really did lead and matters. Does he not see what I see, or do I not see what he sees?
And this is a green tidal wave. This is the biggest transformation to the auto industry since 1950s. And I think it ultimately is going to be Tesla that leads it. But I think huge investment opportunities the way we see it.
And Tesla, what's your target there?
Yeah, it's 225. And again, I think bull case could be closer to 250.
Call me crazy, but a 10% difference between your base case and your bull case? It sounds like a rounding error, not a different scenario. I'd love to hear the assumptions behind this huge variation from 225 to 250 between the base case and the bull case from Dan Ives. P.S. Place your bets for how long until Dan Ives makes a change in the upward direction to his Tesla stock price target. We're talking days, weeks, or months.
All right, GM is looking to trim its employee count here. This time, the automaker is offering buyouts to the majority of its salaried workers as part of its plan to cut $2 billion in costs over the next 2 years. So let's take a look at shares of GM. They're off just about 4.5%. That's because GM expects to take a pre-tax charge of up to $1.5 billion on the move. And of course, the broader market's under pressure today as well. We want to bring in Tom Narayan. He's RBC Capital Markets lead equity analyst for Global Autos. Tom, it's great to have you here. So starting with GM, the move from Mary Barra, what do you think of it?
Yeah, this was expected. It was part of their cost-cutting plan to begin with. So I don't think it was really out of the ordinary. Really, when you look at the auto industry, everyone is worried about profit margins. We're at peak pricing levels, peak margin levels. So everyone's worried that pricing falls. This is a way to absorb some of those pricing corrections. New car pricing and mix is definitely going to have to come back because semis and chips are coming back. So now they're going to put chips in probably lower mix, lower priced cars. So by cutting these costs, which were always the plan to begin with, you can absorb some of that hit from pricing and mix coming down.
How do you evaluate GM's transition to EVs? Are they anywhere near the bumper of Tesla as we transition to the Tesla conversation? But how close is GM?
I'll take that. They're so far behind, even with the telescope, even with the James Webb telescope, they still couldn't see Tesla. That's how far behind they are. They're not catching up. It's not going to end well. This is the first sign of GM's demise and eventual bankruptcy. Did it, Mary?
I mean, it's a little bit of apples and oranges, right? So GM is predominantly in North America, where arguably you don't need this huge ramp of electrification as quick as, let's say, you need in Europe because of CO2 compliance.
Way to out yourself is not realizing the EV transition is already a done deal, that EVs are already a commercial inevitability. The traditional automotive manufacturers are more than half a decade behind and most of them will be going bankrupt. Now, I could be wrong, but based on these comments, I think the guest here is under the assumption that the main reason these companies should be making electric vehicles is based on compliance. E.g., you have to make X amount of electric vehicles by X date or you get fined, rather than the fact that if they continue to make internal combustion engine vehicles, they'll be going bankrupt because consumers won't be buying them within a few years' time. I don't know how many years in a row I'm going to be saying the writing's on the wall, here's what's happening, here's what's going to happen, before it actually starts to happen and people realize, oh, wait, maybe these traditional car companies aren't actually going to survive after all. All of the world's automotive manufacturers today should be all in on EVs. And I mean all in, scrambling. Not a single new dollar invested in developing new internal combustion engine technology. Sure, they can milk their ICE vehicles for maybe another 2-3 years, and after that, no one's going to be buying them, they're not going to be profitable, and it's game fucking over. Yet, the guest here doesn't seem to understand this, nor do most of the legacy automotive manufacturers, or most of the talking heads in the mainstream finance media. It was only this week where we heard many of the folks on CNBS admitting to owning legacy automotive stocks. Apparently, this is an iceberg not everyone can see.
So GM also has pickup trucks, which is such a great business. You don't really need to electrify those as quickly.
Should we tell him that the things that he says they shouldn't be rushing to move to fully electric vehicles are their only hope of surviving the transition? Pickup trucks are today's profit centers for GM. But as I've mentioned, consumers aren't going to be buying these within a few years' time. The less they make, the less consumers buy, the lower the margins, reversing economies of scale. This is a death spiral. It's urgent and of the utmost importance that GM prioritizes electrification of their pickup trucks.
Even though they are, so it's really hard to compare the two. One is a clean sheet EV company, the other one's transitioning from ICE EVs. But even so, I think GM is doing the right things. They're vertically integrated with their Ultium battery cells, doing that in-house. There's only two other folks doing that. It's Tesla and Volkswagen and GM.
Tom, let's talk a little bit more about Tesla because Cathie Wood, who's been bullish on Tesla now for quite some time, scooping up even more shares of the automaker. When it comes to the outperformance as of late of Tesla, we know that there's some concerns out there about the ongoing investigations, most recently being the steering wheel that could fall off of a Model Y. How worried are you about that in terms of what that means for Tesla's investor story going forward?
I mean, this is par for the course for Tesla, right? There's always news and headlines like this. At the end of the day, I think people who invest in Tesla, they understand these issues, and they really look at Tesla as the ability to disintermediate the entire market. You know, it really reminds me of what Netflix did to the media industry a decade ago. You know, coming in and completely upending the industry, cutting costs significantly. You know, they don't advertise. The average cost of a car, something like $5,000-$6,000 of a car is advertising. They don't use dealers. It's about $1,400 off that. They found ways to cut costs in the manufacturing process. This is what investors really care about. Definitely, there's news items that will hit the stock every now and then, but its core investor base is really about the future of this company and how they can cut costs and effectively undercut the rest of the market and their clean sheet approach. It's the only EV company, pure play EV company, that's actually seen its stock rise in recent months. And I think that's why investors are looking at EVs and they're saying this is the clear winner, and they're choosing it over a lot of other new EV makers.
Now I'm even more confused. He seems to understand the thesis as to why people are investing in Tesla stock. They're the clear winner, they've got a dominant lead, they don't need to advertise, they're highly profitable, blah, blah, blah. Yet at the same time, despite just laying out why investors are buying Tesla stock, because they're upending the entire automotive industry, he seems naive to the fact that the entire automotive industry being upended includes companies like GM.
You've got an outperform on a $223 price target on Tesla. It feels like a month ago, but I think it was just a week ago, Investor Day, when the perception was meh. They did not give details about a low-cost Tesla, and it was a long 4-hour drawn-out talk about the sustainability of the planet. Net impact on the stock?
Yeah, I think that's maybe an unfair characterization. It was immediately my characterization as well.
Widely.
Yeah.
You
but
can acknowledge.
A lot of when you like rewatch it over and over again after, it's like
you didn't do that to yourself, did you?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's
a long one too.
You didn't watch that whole presentation to make sure you understood it, did you?
It's one of those where you have to what is that movie, like Memento, where you have to watch it a few times to really get it.
Yeah.
And you do that, and you realize if you read between the lines, he is saying there's going to be a $25,000 car, right? Because he's saying 20 million cars per year. It's his target. I don't think he's going to get there.
Which is nonsense, right?
Does anyone get the sense the two talking heads on Yahoo Finance are nothing but hive mind drones who have beliefs installed into their tiny brains? We've first seen a very embarrassing mischaracterization of Tesla's Investor Day presentation. They've then mocked and ridiculed its length. They've then mocked and ridiculed the guest who said, if you actually listen and use your brain and pay attention to the presentation, the implications are blah, blah, blah. And now instant dismissal of a legitimate goal that Tesla has. That's nonsense, right? Just like their goal back in 2014 of producing 500,000 electric vehicles and selling them all in 2020 was nonsense, by the way. That nonsense is a goal they actually achieved. The bias here is palpable and embarrassing. Serious question. What is wrong with these people other than everything? Why so anti-Tesla? I'm just kidding, I know the answer. Yahoo leans left, Elon's bad, therefore Elon's a right-wing conspiracy theorist, therefore everything to do with Tesla is bad. It's also probably got nothing to do with the fact that automotive manufacturers are some of the biggest, if not the biggest advertisers on the Yahoo network. Totally irrelevant, I just don't know why I even mentioned it.
Nonsense, but the fact that he's putting that out there, you're not going to get there with Model 3s and Model Ys. So it's just too expensive. He even said as much. And he had a chart which had a car with the nice blanket over it that had a big number on it in one of the slides. I think that's going to be the $25,000 car. That's going to have huge implications on the rest of the industry, especially for the things I said earlier. He can come in, undercut the rest of the market. And this could be a global vehicle. It's not just penetrating the US. Now you can go after Europe, of course, China. So I actually think when you really dive into the details, ability to cut costs on chips, right, the silicon carbide by 75%. Overall manufacturing, he showed how you can change the way you make the car and cut the costs in general by 50%. I actually don't think that it was as negative. And I think people can re-watch it and come to the conclusion, yeah, a $25,000 car is coming.
And that would be a huge one here for Tesla going forward. What about the Cybertruck? There's lots of debate out there about how much impact that's going to have, how meaningful that will be for Tesla over the next several years. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was underplayed a bit during the event, also with the Optimus robot as well. So I would agree that's probably not as emphasized as it was in the past. To me, the big takeaway from this event, $25,000 car, not really so much Cybertruck, but I don't think you really need Cybertruck for the stock to work. It's really about upending the entire EV ecosystem.
So real quickly, that's kind of a specialty, you believe, as opposed to those who feel it's going to be mainstream and change the entire industry. You believe this is more the Ferrari model, if some have called it.
Yeah, it's probably more like the Model X and Model S, right? Those are pretty low volume cars. I'm not saying Cybertruck will be low volume. It has a ton of orders. But I just don't think you need that to work for Tesla stock to work. Again, this $25,000 car is going to be game changing.
It sure is. Now, in fairness, Cybertruck has the potential to do 1 million units per year, give or take. Could be 1.5, could be 2, could be 500,000. My best guess, it's a little over 1 million a year once ramped up. If you delete Cybertruck, delete Model S, delete Model X, yes, I'm going to say it, and delete Model 3 and Model Y, Tesla's next-gen vehicle, a $25,000 Tesla, could carry the entire company and accomplish their mission on its own. So while the Cybertruck matters, it is going to be just a drop in the bucket in the scheme of things, which once again brings me to my puzzlement about how most people seem to be disappointed regarding what was unveiled at Tesla's Investor Day 2023. The single most important product in the company's history is going to upend the entire automotive industry. It's the final nail in the coffin.
But I don't understand. I'm disappointed.
Another thing that's kind of curious to me, and I don't want to be too obnoxious, but I'm going to be honest. Why are people saying that you need to watch the presentation again and again to understand the implications? Don't get me wrong, if you rewatch it, you'll pick up a few additional details, but bro, how did anyone not understand what they saw the first time around? Genuine question. Like seriously, the whole fucking presentation was here's what's required to transition the planet to sustainable energy. Oh, and by the way, here's the size of the global ICE vehicle fleet. Oh, and by the way, here's how we're halving the cost of our next gen vehicle, allowing us to reach our goal of 20 million vehicles per year. That was the whole presentation, was around how they're reducing costs, removing rare earth materials from the motors, new manufacturing systems, assembling a car in an entirely new way. I just don't understand why anyone needed to watch that presentation more than once to understand this. I really, truly, genuinely am puzzled. I just don't get it. No, I really don't get it. Is this how much of a box some people live in? That they see very clear details and the first time, does not compute. Straight over the head. Well, I don't understand anything I just saw. What the heck? I need to watch that again. Like, I actually just don't understand.
There is big news this morning on GM, and for that, we're going to turn to Phil LeBeau. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning, Carl. General Motors will be sending an offer letter, basically already has sent an offer letter to the majority of its salaried workforce, offering voluntary buyouts. Remember, GM is in the midst of cutting about $2 billion. That's the target in terms of how much money it expects to cut this year.
This is how it starts. And this is what I predicted would happen years ago, and now it's starting to happen. Massive layoffs. In part because most of the people working at GM aren't going to be particularly useful in producing electric vehicles, and in part because the company is bleeding so much money they're likely to go bankrupt. This is the most well-spun PR version of we're shit-canning a fuckload of employees. Voluntary separation agreements, or whatever the they call them. Expect more mass layoffs at other automotive manufacturers coming soon.
Essentially, it's looking for savings, and we've seen this with other automakers where they have either announced buyouts and or layoffs, and it was just about a week and a half ago that General Motors said that it would be eliminating about 500 jobs, salaried jobs around the world as it looks to streamline its operations. Now we know that the company is sending out an offer letter to almost all of its salaried staff saying there will be an offer for a buyout. How many take it, how successful this is, and whether or not this keeps the company from having to initiate some type of a broader layoff, that remains to be seen. But we shouldn't be surprised, guys. We've seen this with other automakers, and now we're seeing it with GM. It is moving to keep costs in line as much as possible. Back to you.
Two things, Phil. One is the note about from Morgan Stanley on Tesla's Cybertruck. Adam Jonas arguing that it might be more of a niche product than in the past.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is why I often refer to Morgan Stanley as Moron Stanley. Sometimes they publish great research, and other times like this, suggesting the Cybertruck is going to be more of a niche product. I would suggest that maybe Morgan Stanley were on drugs when they said this, but then I realized if they were on drugs, they'd probably understand that Cybertruck is going to be a massive hit. Let's just ignore the 1.5 million reservations we already know exist. Yeah, that's not a useful data point. It's going to be a niche product. 1.5 million, that's not that many people, is it, huh? I swear, I think Morgan Stanley are playing 4D chess here, and they just say dumb shit on purpose to get talked about by people like me. Shout out to their previous $10 bear case on Tesla, which split adjusted after the two splits is like 67 cents per share. I think this was 2018, right? Laughing stock of the world. But they got talked about. Are they trying to do the same thing again? Just say something ridiculous so people roast them just so they get in the news and are talked about? If so, I've been outplayed.
With regard to Adam Jonas, Tesla, and his comments regarding the Cybertruck, when production starts, if it starts on schedule later this year, and by the way, that's not on schedule compared to their original target, but they've said, look, we expect to begin production down in Texas this year and then ramp up in 2024. I think a lot of people will sit there and they say, if they start, how much are they going to be able to ramp up production? And while you will hear a lot of Tesla fans say, look, they have 100,000 people who are interested in buying it.
This has to be a slip of the tongue. No, really. I'm sure Phil is aware of, and he just meant to say 1 million people, but accidentally said 100,000. A mere order of magnitude slip up, but hey, definitely a mistake.
This is not your typical pickup truck. This is largely a lifestyle truck. That's the way it has been designed.
Oh, for fuck's sake, dude. Hi, I don't have a brain, so I'm just going to make an assumption without thinking first. It looks different, therefore it can't function the same, or better, therefore it's a lifestyle pickup truck. I have nothing nice to say, so I won't say anything at all.
Will it sell well in Southern California, maybe in the LA area, or down in Miami? You bet. I bet you there are a lot of people there. Is it going to sell well in Wichita, Kansas? No way.
I'd love to make a wager on that. Now, don't get me wrong, I acknowledge there will be a little bit of resistance, especially in some of the more traditional rural areas where just about everyone drives and actually uses a pickup truck. That will change once these folks actually see what Cybertruck can do. Bro, this is like Investor Day 2023 all over again. Let's ignore the facts and let's just project an assumption there and then not understand what the we saw and are looking at.
I mean, that's the reality that you have here, is that you have a market that for a lifestyle pickup truck buyer, they might be interested.
So Phil LeBeau, who's been covering the automotive industry on CNBC for, I don't know, the better part of a decade, unfortunately appears to be trapped in a box and unaware he's trapped in said box. I don't know how to politely describe the issue we have here, but it is a recurring theme among folks in the automotive industry, legacy automotive companies, retail investors, consumers, and many armchair Einsteins. The thinking, or lack thereof, goes like this. That doesn't fit in the box that I have for things that can do work for people who buy pickup trucks, because it looks different. Therefore, it can't do the same work. The end. I don't need to think anymore. This lack of thinking will not age well. The cracks are starting to form in Government Motors, the company on its way to bankruptcy. This is the first step in an inevitable death spiral. We had an analyst who apparently thinks GM will be fine as they transition to EVs, despite admitting Tesla's upending the whole industry. We have the Yahoos on Yahoo Finance living up to their name, showing their clear and overwhelming biases, anti-Tesla, anti-Elon, anti-everything. Their arrogance to mockingly ridicule somebody who suggests they watched the full Tesla Investor Day 2023 presentation because they didn't understand what they saw the first time.
Why would you do that?
It's almost like these dimwits do not want to understand. I'm just kidding. That's actually the case. They don't want to understand. They just want to shit on Elon and Tesla because they've been told to do that. They're hive mind drones.
Elon bad, Tesla bad, okay? You understand? You have to shit on Tesla all the time, okay? Good. Got it? Great.
And just to be clear, I understand that the Yahoos on Yahoo Finance may not have the time to spend 4 hours watching a presentation and using their brains and ears and eyes and listening and thinking and letting the implications sink in. I totally get it. After all, their job is to know almost nothing about a lot rather than a lot about almost nothing. But they still talk about things they know almost nothing about, hence the necessity to roast them. They think Tesla's goal of 20 million vehicles per year isn't serious, it's ridiculous. It's a non-serious, what? They can't connect the dots between half-price vehicles and 20 million units per year. I think what I'm trying to say is we are currently at peak misunderstanding. Few people today, at least whose voices I can hear, seem to have any understanding of the massive, titanic, seismic disruption currently happening in the automotive industry. Legacy automotive companies are currently sitting ducks. No one seems to recognize it. Probably won't end well. Just saying. As we know, Tesla's mission is to transition the world to sustainable energy. And at Investor Day 2023, they unveiled exactly how they'll do that by showing the math, the numbers, and their new manufacturing innovations to halve the cost of compelling electric vehicles. It seems a lot of folks are requiring some repetition to really understand this, and things are about to get meta. Unlike Tesla, my mission isn't to transition the entire world to sustainable energy. It's just to transition my entire viewership to having maximum energy to get the most out of life, so they can feel and perform their best. Which is why I implore you to try Athletic Greens AG1, something I've been taking daily now for almost 2 years, and I have never felt better. It should go without saying, but boosting your energy levels, your health, your vitality, your overall well-being, that is the foundation of getting the most out of life. Everything's harder when you lack energy and vitality. Everything's easier when you have energy in abundance. Here's what some viewers of this channel have to say. I've been drinking AG1 since early January and my fatigue has dramatically decreased and my energy, but possibly more importantly, my motivation has increased. I'm so much more productive. Thanks, Stephen. Now, for the record, spoiler alert, maybe this is just my anecdotal experience, but the more energy I have, the more motivation I have. It's almost as if your body goes, oh, I got more energy, better do something with it. At least that's been my personal experience. Another one, I'm on month 3 with AG1 and it's really working for me. So impressed, I've bought it for both my parents now. Thanks, Stephen. By the way, this is a recurring theme. The first thing I did when I started to notice results from Athletic Greens AG1 was get on the phone and talk to my dad and go, bro, sorry to bet, I'm going to start sending you this shit. You need to take it every morning. Non-negotiable. Next person I spoke to was my mum. Then some close friends. And now, the entire interwebs. Another testimonial. After taking AG1 for about 45 days, I honestly can't remember feeling this well, both physically and mentally, ever. I'm sure it's nothing. Who cares? It must be just a one-off, right? Wrong. Been taking AG1 for just over 2 weeks now. Incredible difference and no more afternoon fatigue. Thanks for all the AG1 pumps. Seriously, I finally bought it about a month ago and I've been taking it every morning since. And I cannot stress enough how amazing I feel. This Athletic Greens seems to work well. I ordered this and I've been drinking it for 2 weeks. I really like it. Athletic Greens really works and will also keep you regular as clockwork. Completely agree with the feedback others left on AG1. Been taking it for just over a month and feel amazing. I'm working out harder, feel less mind fog, feel sharper, and it's also helped with the afternoon drop off in energy. It's time to regain your energy and vitality. Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or use the link at the pinned comment and you'll get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2, and you can start your simple once a day, everyday health habit now. Athletic Greens AG1 is such a simple hack. 1 scoop once a day, every day. It is as simple as that, and you'll be feeling and performing your best. Athletic Greens AG1 features a great blend of 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, adaptogens, and digestive enzymes. It will boost mood, energy, and recovery, the foundation of living fulfilling life. So what are you waiting for? Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR and start your daily health habit now. If you're anything like the people we've just heard from, there's a pretty good chance you're going to start feeling and performing even better. And if you happen to have enough energy today, you feel like, I could probably consume a little bit more content, why not head over to Patreon and unlock over 300 exclusive videos and counting? You can join with the card in the corner or the link at the pinned comment, and I'll see you over there. Love ya.